It's 18 minutes past 7, and the BBC has learned that David Cameron's government knew that the Post Office had ditched a secret investigation that might have helped wrongly accused sub-postmasters prove their innocence.
The 2016 investigation trawled 17 years of records to find out how often and why cash accounts on the Horizon IT system had been tampered with remotely. Our economics correspondent Andy Verity has the story.
Fake digital signatures, suppressed internal reviews and a secret investigation. Evidence withheld from court, but revealed in confidential documents released through Freedom of Information and analysed by the BBC. They prove the Post Office learned 10 years ago from an internal review called Project Zebra that sub-postmasters' cash accounts could be fiddled with remotely without their knowledge, a fact that might have undone all their convictions had the Post Office admitted it. A top QC, Jonathan Swift, said the Project Zebra findings contradicted years of denials and told Post Office Chair Tim Parker in February 2016 it must be investigated. We found out that Parker hired the auditors Deloitte to trawl through every transaction on the Post Office's Horizon system going back to 1999 to work out how often remote fiddling had happened and why. Ministers in David Cameron's government knew about the investigation, including then Business Secretary Sajid Javid and Baroness Lucy Neville-Rolfe. But then, in June, after sub-postmasters started legal action, its work was suddenly stopped.
It's like the world crashed on your head, that's all. The government took my house. They made me bankrupt.
Senapathy Narantiran, or Naran to his friends, was given a 3-year jail sentence based on evidence from the Horizon system, and its conviction still hasn't been quashed.
Since I've been in and out, when I came out, the relationship between our family started going down the drain, and I felt it.
If Deloitte's investigation into Horizon had been completed, it might have helped falsely accused sub-postmasters like him to prove something crucial, that the evidence used to jail them, Horizon's data on the cash in their branch accounts, couldn't be relied on. I came to Ramsgate on the Kent coast to show Naran what I'd discovered.
Naran, hi.
Hi Andy, very nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you.
He says the police couldn't find any evidence of theft apart from the false Horizon data.
You were trying to tell them it might be the computer.
Computer, yes. Somebody is remotely accessing into the computer and do it, but they said no. The Post Office will never do such thing.
I showed Naran the Project Zebra findings from a briefing for the Post Office board.
They discovered that Fujitsu could tinker with your computer using a fake key.
That's right, yes.
Then I showed the report where the lawyers recommended the Post Office must investigate how often it happened back to 1999.
So do you think they did that work? Do you think they followed the QC's recommendations? What would be your guess?
Oh, if they would have followed it, then I wouldn't have been inside the prison.
Well, here's the thing. They did follow the recommendations.
They did.
They did. Deloitte spent 3 months, we've discovered, going back through transactions. So in March, they say we're doing the work. Deloitte's been appointed. In April, you launched your litigation, and in June, they stopped Deloitte completing the work.
Yeah. And by knowing all this, why do we waste our time in the prison and separate from the family? I don't know. Anyway, sorry, beg your pardon. It's very hard. On your own, sitting in a room, watching at the TV or laptop. That's not life, isn't it? I'm 69 years old. Too old to go through all these things. Never mind.
What's a little unsettling is that these documents show the Post Office's own auditors were telling them in 2014 that it was possible for Fujitsu to fiddle remotely with sub-postmasters' accounts. In 2016, their lawyers told them they must investigate. They paid Deloitte to do that and told the government. But then, when they found out sub-postmasters were suing, they ditched that investigation and swept it under the carpet.
On the face of it, it discloses a conspiracy by the Post Office to pervert the course of justice. The important feature of all of this is that in 2014, it appears that the Post Office board was alive to the true position, and yet the Post Office board was responsible for maintaining and advancing the Post Office's defence to the claim in 2019. That was false.
A spokesperson for the Post Office said it was the public inquiry's role to reach conclusions on what happened. Sajid Javid was told the investigation was to look into suggestions branch accounts might have been remotely altered, not that lawyers have found they could be, as was Baroness Neville Rolfe, who was also told about the investigation being stopped. She said she looked forward to explaining her involvement at the inquiry. Tim Parker said through his lawyers he sought and acted upon legal advice he was given, and the documents don't show evidence that David Cameron was told about the investigation. The truth about what the Post Office hid from the courts and what it did tell the government is now being exposed to the light. But Narron ended up with just £19,000 in compensation, less than a third of the cash he lost due to Horizon. He may get more, but alone and still officially branded a criminal, no amount of money could make up for the undeserved shame he and his family have wrongly been made to feel.
Never mind.
Andy Verity, BBC News, Ramsgate.
We're joined now by Janet Skinner, who we've spoken to before. Janet's a former sub-postmistress who was wrongly convicted and sent to jail for 9 months. And here we are again, another part of this scandal. What do you make of what you just heard?
It's just a scandal within a scandal. It just, every other week there is more to this scandal. So it's just rolling.
Surprised by the latest?
Not really, no. And nothing surprises me anymore with this. And I think what they don't understand now is, because of all these freedom of information policies that you have, all of that information's out there anyway. But my legal team was already looking into the Detica report.
Right. So I mean, there's an inquiry obviously underway as well. That sits again next month. Do you feel, as someone who's been through it, who's jailed over this, that finally the details, the true details of this scandal are becoming public?
The true details of it have always been public and they've always been there for people to see. And I think it's just been swept away as much as possible. I mean, obviously, David Cameron was in a position where we wouldn't have had to get funders to go through a group litigation, spending all that money, which the government is still spending all that money by their representation, to then it be unearthed anyway under freedom of information.
I mean, we should say that, you know, although we're talking about the time when David Cameron was Prime Minister, we don't know whether he received this information, whether it got to number 10, whether it was his ministers or his civil servants, but certainly the government knew, yeah.
I think there's a lot of government members that are well aware of what's been going on. I mean, they tried to fight it in the High Court. They rejected that remote access was available. That was in 2017. And then they had to actually say, yes, remote access is a thing.
Lots of people have followed the story, of course, remember it being in the news bulletins and have watched the drama that really brought it home to everybody. And here we are talking about another development. But still, does this feel to you like another delay in getting to the point that you really all want to get to?
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, it's like what's going on between Staunton and
Kemi Baden.
Yeah. I mean, that's just child's play. I mean, the only way they're going to sell it is by producing the evidence. Who's going to come up with the evidence? And, I mean, he's saying that the evidence is on the Post Office server. Unfortunately, we all know how that works because that doesn't ever materialise. So that's probably gone anyway. I just don't know where it's going to go.
But your end goal is?
Justice, accountability and obviously compensation, the way that... I mean, you've got the Minister saying that we're doing everything possible, everything's been speeded up about compensation. But you ask majority of people who have been paid out, there isn't many. A lot within the HSF, not now.
So when you hear Henry Staunton, the former chairman who lost his job, and Kemi Bader, not the business secretary, having this very public slanging match about who said what and who wrote what and what was said in meetings and emails.
Is it smoke and mirrors?
What? It's what?
Is it smoke and mirrors? I had other things that's going on behind it.
And how does all that affect you? as an individual, as a human being.
Do you know what? It just infuriates me that they're just acting the way that they are. Why don't they just do the right thing and settle it? They need to settle it. They can't just keep pushing it away. And I think that's all they're doing. And banking on, we can't give them much information because of the inquiry, we're helping with the inquiry, we're doing this with the inquiry. Yeah, they paid themselves the post office paid themselves bonuses because of the inquiry.
Janet, we've met a few times now over the last few months, and you've been in here with other sub-postmasters and postmistresses. You just feel, to me, just sitting here this morning, you just feel utterly fed up and exhausted by this.
It is tiring, and it really is. And I mean, me and Tracy, who's been on before, Tracy Felstead, we're actually applying to see the minister, because I think he needs to see it for himself firsthand, actually how we're being dealt with compensation. Because I mean, we're having to jump through hoops, and then you're scrutinised, and then they're trying to offer people the bare bones. If it happened to their family members, I don't think they'd be offering them the bare bones.
Exhausting.
Yeah, but we'll get there.
Janet, thank you so much for coming in to talk to us. It's great to see you. Thank you very much. Janet Skinner, former sub-postmistress, of course.
Thanks, Janet.